I don't know if it's because I've been living in the forest now for the last 6 years, but is it just me, or is the world becoming a bit more crazy each day? I can't honestly tell anymore. I don't know if it's me who the crazy one or just the rest of the world, because when I'm looking out into the world, I feel like I'm watching The Truman Show, you know, the movie with Jim Carrey. Everything is just made up and it doesn't make any sense when you look at it from outside perspective. Or sometimes I can feel like I'm watching the hosts from Hunger Games, when they're sitting there, it's just made up TV studio and everyone in the couch is sitting like, everything is fine, don't worry. Like super creepy, super calm, super fake. That's what I feel like looking from my perspective here in the forest in the cabin into that world. So I hope this video will resonate with you. It will probably stir up some questions. I hope it makes you stop and think a bit. I don't expect you to agree with everything I'm gonna say, and that's completely fine, but let's talk about it. So one of the biggest epiphanies I got from moving here was actually to start questioning everything. And that's a very scary thing to do, because when you've been told something your entire life, it could be food related, school related, money related, job related, relationship related, everything just like loosens up and you kind of look at it from a different perspective. Because when I used to say buy stuff before, when I say if I was about to buy a house or a new phone or anything, if I did research back then, I was considered a good consumer, smart consumer. But if I do research today on the food I'm eating, or what I'm putting in my body and on my body, and the way I'm living, how the school system actually works, medicine and so on, I'm the weird guy, just because I'm questioning the narrative, if you know what I mean. Because when I first moved here, everything kind of went quiet. It was like a cloud lifting from my mind, and I started to notice things. Things that I used to look at when I was living in the city, working a 9 to 5, having a normal life. Those things back then seemed completely normal. But now, when I look at them, they feel almost alien. It's like we're living in a system where everything works just enough to keep us from asking questions. It's like that boiling frog metaphor, if you heard about that one. Basically, it is this idea of like, if you put a frog into boiling water, it will of course immediately sense danger and jump up and try to escape and, panic mode. But if you put the frog in cold water and then slowly raising the temperature, so the frog doesn't realize there is any danger, just slowly raising it without making the frog or us asking too much questions. Like, is it getting warm? Nah, we're probably just fine. And then all of a sudden the water is boiling and it's too late. But if you're not a person that's asking questions, maybe you should. Because once you discovered a truth or a lie or whatever it may be, it's like pulling a thread from a sweater. All of a sudden you're like starting to pull this thread and you're discovering more and more and more, and then you unravel this whole thing. This whole sweater disappears and you start discovering the truth. We chose this simple lifestyle here in the forest with, no bathroom, a very uninsulated cabin. We chose that for a very specific reasons. I mean, several reasons actually. But it's not just about how we live, but more about why we chose to live this way. I can only speak from my own point of view, so I'm not trying to judge anyone or anyone's lifestyle. This is just my opinions and talking about life from my perspective of what I have been learning so far. Because when a lot of people look at my lifestyle or our lifestyle and look at the way we're living, people think we're weirdos for choosing to live without a bathroom or living out here in the forest where everything is just so much more complicated. yeah, it's more complicated, but the simplicity of it also makes me happy. I'm gonna go into that a bit later as well. But even though people think I'm the weird person that has to, right now literally have to take a toilet roll, go out into the forest and take a shit because our compost toilet is completely frozen and I can't use it. It's just gone. So I have to go out into the forest to do my business. I've done that for the last several weeks actually. People might think that's a bit weird, but to me it's more weird the people are choosing to live in this small little concrete box in a city, working most of the day for someone else, working a job they don't like, working a job where they don't get respect and gratitude for what they're doing. That is weird to me. We chose this lifestyle to be able to be in control of our own time. We decide what we do, when we do things. That's a big shift for me, because when I used to work in the city, someone else always told me what to do, and now I control that myself. Of course, we have a son now that very much dictates our life and our schedule in a different way, but that's a boss I'm very happy to have. He's the joy of our lives, and it's so interesting because this kind of epiphanies that I've been having since I moved here has also kind of doubled since we got our son, because now I see the world also from his perspective, and what I don't want to transfer over to him from my old life and Christine's old life, and what I want to bring in from this new chapter of our life to him. If we take school, for instance, I have a bachelor's degree in audio engineering and sound design. I studied for 3 years at the university for getting that degree. I have not once used it in a resume or applying for a job or something. I think I have it on my resume, but it didn't matter whatsoever. But me growing up in school, I was told that that's the most important thing you need to get. Like was it. But looking back at it, I had a fun time and I absolutely learned things, which is also important in life. And of course it's easy for me to sit here today and just feel like I have a lot of more answers than I did before, of course. And I don't want to come across that I'm just sitting on this high horse having all the answers preaching to you guys. That's not the point at all. I'm just brain dumping everything I have in my head into this video, I guess, and hope something comes out. But it's of course easier for me now. It's like that famous saying, you can only connect the dots looking back, and that's what it feels like to me today when I'm sitting here. Yeah, I can make the connections to how unhealthy my previous relationship was, how unhealthy my way was at looking at a job or jealousy, money. I come from a very toxic view maybe of money and what considered to be fair and not. And that's my own past, coming from my relatives and family and so on. We all have our baggage. I actually heard a podcast recently where they discussed a book that quote or that sentence that they talked about really resonated with me. I'm gonna try to give it justice here. They talked about that how our upbringing was as kids, or how we see the world today is like we're having a scent around us, or smell, actually, sorry, a smell. And to me, when you have your own smell, you don't necessarily pick up on it because that's your smell. That's a smell that is just around you and you don't even think about it. It's the same thing when I haven't been in the cabin for a long time. I come back to it and whoa, that's very smoky, because we have a fire going all the time. But when I live here and I am in this place all the time, I don't even consider it. And that's the same thing when it comes to my past, looking at, say, money or relationships or jobs or so on. I have this smell that surrounds me, and when someone else is coming near me or in my sphere, so to speak, they pick up on that smell and they're like, that's a weird smell, maybe. and I smell them. I hope this makes sense to you. It was brilliant when I heard it. But it's just so interesting to look at it as a smell, because we don't see it, we don't feel it ourselves. It's just a part of our past, a part of our old relationships, part of our job history or money or whatever it is. To me, that smell, my smell, so to speak, makes complete sense to me. I don't even pick up on it. But if Christine comes into my life and see the way I view money, for instance, she's like, "Who? That's a bad smell." And I'm like, "It is? What does it smell like?" And I had to explain that to her, and she explains it back to me. And I thought that was just such a genius way of looking at it, seeing our baggage and our history and our issues and positives and negatives as a smell, because you can't touch it, you cannot feel it, you can sense it, I guess. That metaphor, or that way of looking at it, really spoke to me. Another metaphor that me and my good friend Per discussed was the turkey metaphor, which basically is that picture your life as a turkey, the farmer that owns you, and you're living on this beautiful, lovely farm. He's coming with food every day, you're getting clean water, everything is just fluffy and nice, and it just keeps going, and it just keeps going. Every day it's just, oh, I have such a good life. And then the farmer decides to kill you because he needs the food or something. And I feel like that's how we're viewing this modern society we're living in a bit. Like, we're just trusting everything around us that it's gonna continue like it is today. The way we're looking at, say, how we handle money and the banking industry, or how banks are working, or insurances, or food prices, or whatever it may be. I think we are very naive for just expecting everything to continue as it always has been doing. So those two metaphors of the boiling frog and the turkey metaphor kind of goes hand in hand. One is slowly starting to boil, and the other one is very direct. And the very direct one could be more like, maybe you have this nice job that you're really enjoying, and then one day you get fired. I've gotten fired before. It was the worst feeling on the planet. I didn't expect that at all. I didn't like my job at all, but still, I was relying on that salary, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, how do I pay my bills? And I just naively just trusted my employer to keep giving me a salary. And then all of a sudden it disappeared. Same thing with the previous relationship of mine. I just like, of course this is gonna last forever. I just have full faith in that this is just gonna be my future now. And then it just disappeared in a day. And that has both scared me, absolutely, but also opened up my eyes to kind of making my life a bit more secure for myself and my family. Try to think a bit ahead, try to think a bit more realistic, I guess. Trying to appreciate and not take everything for granted. Like, I'm really fighting hard for me and Christine's relationship. I don't want to make the same mistakes I did in the previous relationships. I want this one to be a really good one. And I've made so much progress, if I can pat myself on the back a bit. I'm still not a perfect boyfriend in any way, but if I look back at that previous relationship, I can really look back at myself and like, oh, you idiot. It's small things, but it's like so stupid, childish behaviors I did that I would never want to repeat today. I still repeat some stupid, dumb things, absolutely, but today I can at least go to Christine and say, you know what, I'm sorry, it was my fault. So I think looking at the turkey metaphor in that way of like, it could end, so don't take it for granted. Of course, I don't want to like preach like the like a doomsday is coming or anything. I don't have that mindset at all. I just want to inspire you to enjoy life and what you do have. It may be that you're striving towards maybe a simpler life in the forest, or getting a new relationship, ending a relationship, getting your dream job. My thoughts and my words to you would be to not wait too long. Like, we're pushing these deadlines for ourselves longer than they need to be. I hope that makes sense. We always say that, like, one day I'm gonna move to a cabin in the forest. One day I'm gonna quit that job. One day I'm gonna break out of this relationship. Like, stop saying one day and try to switch it around into saying, this is day one of me getting a new job. This is day one of me starting my own company. Try to break free of this very boxy narrative that is in the world. And that's why I have this channel, to talk about stuff like this. I hope I don't just sit here and ramble. I have no idea if this even speaks to anyone out there. I hope it does. Another thing I started also to look deeper into, which was a complete rabbit hole, was food in general. I have went through different stages of different diets in my life. I've even been vegetarian and vegan at some point. That didn't work out for me at all. But started to look at the food industry, I should say, not food in general. When you're starting to read ingredient lists, you start to understand how companies work, how much greenwashing it is in the world. Like, oh, this is bio packaging with this and that and this. And then you read the actual ingredients. It's just like, I get so pissed off because I feel like we're getting more and more shit into our product. People are becoming more and more unhealthy each day, and we're still not fixing that thing. And it's because the companies are, of course, earning a ton of money on it. It's a cheaper way to produce food, but it's worse for the consumer, which is us. We are working really hard on eating as good as we humanly possibly could. Next year we're gonna expand the garden even more. We're gonna get both chickens and sheep, just to kind of starting this journey a bit more of self-sufficiency. Because the more I listen to the news, hear stuff from out into the world, it just makes me like want to take a blanket and cover my head. I don't want to hear it, because we're, in my opinion, going in the complete opposite direction. We have such a beautiful world, such a beautiful nature. I mean, if you're looking at Sweden, for instance, if you're not living here, you're probably seeing like, oh wow, there's, you know, this endless amount of forest and it's looking like paradise. Yeah, I honestly, truly feel like I'm living on the best place on the planet Earth here. I love this place. But in reality, I think we only have 10% left of original old forest in Sweden. The rest is completely cut down. So what you're seeing in the green areas and big forests are planted trees. And say this forestry industry or the forestry companies are saying, hey, but we're replanting when we're cutting down. Yeah, I guess so. But in reality, they're usually just planting one species of trees, and that's not how a forest works. Nature is mixed. There are different kind of trees, different kind of plants, different kind of animals. Trees are not meant to stand in rows. They're not meant to be one of a kind. And there's so many companies, if you go on their sites, they're just these super pretty images of green forests. But if you visit these sites that are literally around the corner from our cabin, it's horrible. It looks like a war zone. And yeah, we have laws and everything that goes against that, but these companies are going over those laws and completely ignoring them. They're so much in the gray area sometimes that it really pisses me off. They have, for instance, this what they call protected areas. They're not allowed to move or allowed to cut down. But what they can do is to literally, they can cut down another piece over here and completely clear cut that area, and then they move that protected area to the clear cut property. Oh, now we're not allowed to move or touch this area. It's already destroyed, and then they can go on and cut this down. the more I'm talking about this, the more upset I get. But I think it's important that we sit down and talk about this. Like last night, I had a 3-hour-long phone call with my good friend Per. We met at a we call it högskola in Swedish, like a separate course school, alternative school that we went on. I never met him before joining that class. We were like 25 students that studied organic farming and everything that surrounds that. And him and I was talking last night. Was actually him that mentioned the frog, the boiling frog metaphor for me. I've never heard that before. So he taught me that one, and we talked for hours. And I think it's important to have really, really long discussions without interference of other people or phones or anything else. Just talking, nothing else. And I don't mean to just sit down with people that you agree with. Me and Per are very much on the same side about everything. I can't talk specifically about all the topics we went into and that we agree on, because that would literally cancel this channel. Because a lot of things that I would like to talk about, I can't, because it doesn't fit the narrative. But I also really agree with sitting down with people that you don't agree with at all. I love to sit down with people like that if they're open for discussion. Not just like a monologue where they're rambling their stuff and I'm rambling my stuff. It's a conversation between two people, because it's not until then you learn that there's something outside of your own filter bubble, because you can't really pop your own filter bubble until you go into an uncomfortable area talking about stuff that you don't agree with. But you have to step out of that and go into this, people that you don't agree with, and just sit down, talk with them, and realize they're also people. We might agree on some things and some not, and that's completely fine. But realizing that you have a bubble around you. I have a bubble around me, absolutely, because I mostly talk with people I agree with. But again, I really enjoy listening to other people that I don't agree with, just to hear their point of view, because there have been so many times I've sat down with people, talk to them, and I have literally misunderstood them from the beginning. But when they're actually saying what is behind their house and why, I, for the first time, understand them. And like, oh, okay, you meant that way. Okay, now I understand it. Perfect. And then we can move forward from there. And another thing, both me and Christine have started to, I guess, look at a bit differently since we got our son, is kindergarten and so on. Because the reason we got a kid was to be able to spend as much time as humanly possible with him. I work a lot, and I'm away from him more than I absolutely want to. So I don't want to sugarcoat that part or romanticize it that I'm with the family all the time. I'm not. But at least he is at home with Christine and having someone that really cares for him. Because we live in this society now where it's normal that we just put the kids in kindergarten after like 6 months or a year. And what Christina taught me about, not childcare, but like how to raise a kid, basically, is how important the first years are for a little individual like him. And if we're just handing him off to somewhere else, we're not in control of what's happening to him, what's he learning, and the way he feels safe. Because I talked to so many parents like, we leave at kindergarten. We started to leave him there at like 6 months or 1 year old. It was super traumatic in the beginning. He just screamed. He didn't want to be there. But after a while, he accepted it. After some weeks, like, to me, that doesn't sound so healthy. I get that a lot of people have to leave at kindergarten. I completely get that. Because we almost need we need 2 salaries today to be able to afford everything, because everything is so insanely expensive when it comes to food or travel or stuff like that. But I don't believe in a system where we should leave a kid if they're literally screaming. I don't know how it is where you living, but around here, at least with the friends I've been talking to, that they have this rule at their kindergarten that when you leave the kid, and if the kid is screaming and like having a tantrum, you're not, as a parent, allowed to stay. You have to go away so the caretakers at the kindergarten can calm the kid down. We would probably take August, our son, to something called open kindergarten, where we're at kindergarten one day maybe, but we're with him. We're not leaving him somewhere. He's still with us, but he can run around with other kids and parents, because I think that's very healthy. He's still hanging out with our friends and our kids' friends, our friends' kids as well. So he's not just completely isolated in the forest. That's not the point either. But I think everything should come with a bit of balance. What I would like from this video is that we, in the comment field, start a healthy discussion. What is something that you're questioning right now? What is something that you're working on? What is something that you're going through? Because I made a post on Instagram a few weeks ago, a random post of a picture of me moving here to the cabin, and it just went completely viral because I actually asked people like to open up about their feelings and thoughts. I first told my story and what I was really struggling with, and then people open up on their end. And that's what I've been trying to do in this video as well, trying to open up what I'm struggling with, what I'm really enjoying with this lifestyle. So let's start a healthy discussion down in the comment field. And thank you for listening to this rambling video. I'll see you guys very soon again. Bye.